In 2025, the United States witnessed something alarming, one of the biggest honeybee population crashes ever recorded. Beekeepers across the country reported massive losses. In just a few months, from mid-2024 to early 2025, around 1.6 million bee colonies disappeared. That's nearly two-thirds of all commercial hives wiped out. The financial damage? Estimated at over $600 million. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. Beekeepers described non-stop phone calls. The same desperate question again and again. Do you have any extra bees? One large-scale beekeeper in Southern California, managing about 25,000 colonies, lost over 60% of his bees in a single season. At one point, he admitted something heartbreaking. There's only so much loss you can take before you start wondering if you can continue. While all of this is happening, far away from the crisis. In the mountains of South Africa, a plant has been quietly thriving for millions of years, producing natural sweetness without relying on bees at all. This isn't a lab-made sweetener. It's not some artificial sugar alternative with a strange aftertaste. It's completely natural, rich, golden, and naturally sweet. Local communities have been using it long before written history even existed in that region. Yet most people around the world have never even heard of it. This plant is known as honeybush. Scientifically, it belongs to the Cyclopia genus, a group of around 20-plus species found only in a unique part of South Africa. Each type has its own characteristics. Some grow high in the mountains, producing deep, rich sweetness and making up most of the wild harvest. Others grow closer to the coast, with bright golden stems and fine needle-like leaves. And some thrive in lowland areas, meaning the only way to harvest them is to hike into remote mountains and find them growing naturally, just as they always have. All of this happens in a place called the Cape Floristic region, one of the rarest botanical zones on Earth. To understand how special it is, the entire continents of North America, Europe, and most of Asia together count as just one floral kingdom. And this small region at the southern tip of Africa? It's one of only 6 in the entire world. Along the southern coast of South Africa lies a stretch of land so unique, it's considered an entire botanical kingdom on its own. Despite its small size, this region holds an astonishing level of plant diversity, more species packed into each square kilometer than almost anywhere else on Earth. And within this extraordinary environment grows a remarkable plant. A woody shrub, covered in bright yellow flowers, that releases a strong, unmistakable honey-like aroma the moment its leaves are crushed. Brew its stems, and you taste sweetness. Extract and refine it, and you get a rich, golden syrup, one that can replace honey in almost any recipe. What's even more surprising? This plant isn't new. It was officially recorded in scientific literature back in 1705, more than 3 centuries ago. Long before many modern nations even existed. And yet today, you'd struggle to find it in supermarkets across North America, Europe, or Asia. So the real mystery isn't whether it works. It's this. Why did the world ignore it? The answer is complex. It involves overlooked indigenous knowledge. A rare ecosystem found nowhere else on Earth. A growing global bee crisis. And a group of natural compounds so powerful that scientists have described one of them as almost miraculous. To truly understand this plant, you first need to understand where it comes from. The region is known as the fynbos biome, a unique type of shrubland located in South Africa's Cape provinces. The name comes from a local word meaning fine bush, referring to the thin, delicate leaves that dominate the landscape. But don't let that softness fool you. This is one of the harshest growing environments imaginable. The soil is sandy, acidic, and extremely low in nutrients. Rainfall is limited. Summers are hot and dry. Most crops wouldn't survive here for more than a few weeks. And yet, fynbos doesn't just survive, it thrives. It is considered one of the most biologically rich ecosystems on land. Within this relatively small region, there are around 9,000 different plant species, and nearly 70% of them exist nowhere else on Earth. To put that into perspective, this single region contains more unique plant life than entire countries combined. It's so important that it has been recognized globally as a protected natural heritage site. But what makes it even more fascinating is how it deals with destruction. Fire. In most ecosystems, fire is a threat. Here, it's essential. Many plants in this region have evolved to depend on fire for survival. Their seeds can remain dormant in the soil for years, even decades, waiting for a signal. That signal comes from smoke and heat. Only after a fire passes through do these seeds finally begin to grow. And honeybush is one of those plants. Its seeds are incredibly tough, so much so that without exposure to fire or similar conditions, they simply won't germinate. When flames sweep across the land, the plant above ground may be destroyed. But beneath the surface, life is just beginning again. It regenerates. It adapts. It returns. This is a plant shaped by extreme conditions over millions of years. And somehow, those very conditions are what gave it its natural sweetness. So what exactly makes this plant so powerful? The answer lies in its biology. When plants grow in harsh environments, extreme heat, dry climates, or nutrient-poor soil, they adapt by producing special chemical compounds to survive. These are known as secondary metabolites. They're responsible for a plant's flavor, aroma, and even its medicinal effects. And in the case of honeybush, these compounds are found in unusually high concentrations. The plant contains a rich mix of natural substances like polyphenol, flavonoids, and xanthones. But a few of these stand out. The first is mangiferin. This compound has been widely studied, and researchers have linked it to a range of powerful effects, including antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and even potential anti-cancer properties. In simple terms, it's one compound performing multiple protective roles. Next is hesperidin. This is another natural compound known for reducing inflammation and supporting overall cellular health, with studies suggesting it may also have cancer-fighting potential. But the most fascinating compound is pinnitol. This is where things get truly interesting. Pinnitol has been shown to mimic the function of insulin inside the human body. That means it helps cells absorb glucose from the bloodstream, without requiring additional insulin production. Think about what that implies. For millions of people worldwide dealing with blood sugar issues, this isn't just interesting, it's potentially very important. And there's more. Pinnitol also acts as an expectorant, meaning it helps support the respiratory system. This may explain why indigenous communities used honeybush for breathing-related conditions long before modern science understood why it worked. What makes all of this even more impressive is that these compounds are not present in tiny amounts. They are found throughout the plant, in its leaves, stems, and flowers, in meaningful concentrations. When you brew honeybush tea, these compounds naturally dissolve into the water. The result is a drink that is naturally sweet, caffeine-free, extremely low in tannins, free from added sugar and fat, and contains trace minerals like iron, calcium, magnesium, and zinc. Now compare that to other sweeteners. Sugar gives you sweetness, but nothing else. Artificial sweeteners offer sweetness, but often come with concerns. Even honey, while natural, still carries a high sugar load. But honeybush is different. It provides natural sweetness while also delivering compounds linked to antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and metabolic support. That combination is incredibly rare. It's not just a sweetener. It's something entirely in a category of its own. But this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. The people who understood honeybush the most weren't scientists in modern laboratories. They were the indigenous communities of South Africa. The Khoi and San, often grouped together as the Khoisan. These are among the oldest continuous human populations on Earth. Genetic research suggests that the San people have lived in southern Africa for tens of thousands of years, making them one of the most ancient human lineages still in existence. Long before scientific journals or chemical analysis, they already knew the value of this plant. For generations, they harvested honeybush from wild mountain regions. They used it to treat breathing-related illnesses, conditions we would now recognize as asthma or symptoms linked to tuberculosis. They drank it to support digestion after heavy meals. They gave it to new mothers to help recovery and improve overall strength. And they trusted it as a daily wellness drink, safe for people of all ages. They even applied it for inflammation, using it to soothe skin problems and joint discomfort. What's remarkable is how this knowledge was preserved. Not through books or written records, but through oral tradition. Passed down from one generation to the next. Families knew exactly where the best plants grew. They understood the right time to harvest them. And they perfected preparation methods over centuries. This wasn't random use. It was a deeply developed system of natural medicine, refined through long-term human experience. Then everything changed. In the 17th century, European settlers arrived. The Dutch East India Company established a settlement in what would later become Cape Town in 1652. Soon after, European botanists began studying the region's unique plant life. They noticed honeybush, and documented it as early as the 1700s. One of those scientists was Carl Peter Thunberg, a student of the famous Carl Linnaeus. He carefully described the plant and its characteristics. But here's the problem. The colonial system didn't see value in something that grew wild in the mountains. It didn't fit into their structured agricultural model. Instead, they introduced European honeybees and built an economy around beekeeping. Over time, honey production and imported sugar became dominant. And the traditional knowledge of honeybush? It wasn't erased, but it was pushed aside. Dismissed as primitive. Ignored by mainstream systems. So for more than 200 years. This incredible plant remained in the background. Growing quietly in the mountains. Producing its unique compounds. While the world focused on an entirely different source of sweetness. One that depended completely on bees. And that brings us to a serious global issue. Because the bee crisis didn't happen overnight. Back in the 1940s, the United States had around 5 million managed honeybee colonies. Today, that number has dropped to nearly half. But the real concern isn't just the decline. It's the speed. Over the past 15 years, annual colony losses have averaged around 40%. Before 2006, losing even 15 to 20% was considered normal. Now, losses are often double or even triple that level. Beekeepers try to recover by splitting colonies or buying new ones. But this process is becoming more expensive and harder to maintain every year. Then came 2025. And things escalated into a full-scale crisis. Beekeepers began reporting sudden, massive losses, sometimes 60% to 100% of their hives gone. And this was happening at the worst possible time. Just as they were preparing to transport bees for almond pollination in California, one of the most important agricultural operations in the country.